Ever wondered how game worlds feel so alive and NPCs react with such intelligence? In this video, we will explore the AI architecture that powers immersive worlds.
In the fading light of a crisp autumn evening, Basil Harrington moved through the west wing of Grayson Manor with practiced efficiency. For 32 years, he had served as head butler, his footsteps silent against the marble floors, his posture impeccable. The manor breathed around him, a living entity of old stone and older secrets. Lady Eleanor Gray was hosting a diplomatic dinner that evening. As usual, she had insisted on minimal security presence inside the main dining room. Politics requires the appearance of trust, she often said, though Basil knew the armed detail remained vigilant in the shadows of the estate. When Basil discovered the storage closet door slightly ajar, his internal priority system immediately activated. He pulled it open to find young Thomas, a footman of only 3 months, crumpled unnaturally behind the cleaning supplies. His neck was at an impossible angle, eyes vacant, and his uniform, the charcoal gray with silver trim that Lady Gray insisted upon, was missing. "Dead body found," Basil muttered to himself, recognizing the situation. As the first to discover the body, he automatically became the situation leader with Thomas's corpse as the target. "Someone is wearing Thomas's uniform," he whispered, his composure momentarily fracturing as he processed the implications. He closed the door, locked it with his master key, and moved purposefully toward Anders, the head of security who stood at his usual post. Basil knew he needed to initiate a radio broadcast to draw in the appropriate participants. "Code Silver," Basil murmured when he reached Anders, the predetermined phrase that would trigger the security network. "Thomas is dead. His uniform is gone." The radio broadcast rippled through the security team's earpieces. Anders's expression remained unchanged, but his hand moved subtly to acknowledge receipt. He had now become a participant in the dead body found situation. Maintain protocol. "We need to identify the imposter immediately," Anders replied, setting up search parameters for the team now actively participating in the situation. What followed was a silent, methodical sweep as security personnel responded to Anders's radio broadcast. They maintained their positions, but heightened their awareness, scanning each staff member with trained precision. Yet remarkably, they found nothing out of place. Every footman responded correctly to protocols, knew their assigned stations, and performed their duties flawlessly. "It's as if we're chasing a ghost," Anders whispered to Basil as they regrouped in the empty library. "Everyone checks out." "Perhaps we've misunderstood the situation," Basil suggested, though he knew the dead body in the closet argued otherwise. "Could Thomas's uniform be a diversion?" Anders shook his head. "We've doubled security around Lady Gray. The dinner proceeds as planned. We can't afford to alarm the guests or show weakness." Meanwhile, the assassin, dressed in Christopher's perfectly fitting uniform, moved through the manor with practiced ease. Unlike the NPCs around him, he could perceive all active situations and their participants. He noted how the security team had subtly reorganized following Basil's discovery, their movements revealing their heightened alert status. The dead body found situation had created exactly the distraction pattern he had anticipated. The diplomatic dinner began on schedule. Distinguished guests from 3 continents exchanged pleasantries over imported wine and delicate appetizers. Lady Gray, commanding in a gown of midnight blue, navigated the complex waters of international diplomacy with her characteristic charm and precision. Basil observed from his position near the service entrance, increasingly troubled. something wasn't right. He watched the footmen move with practiced efficiency, 14 of them in identical uniforms circulating through the room with silver trays and crystal glasses. Halfway through the main course, Lady Grey caught his eye from across the room and gave him the slightest nod, their private signal that all was well from her perspective. Basil forced himself to relax marginally. Perhaps the security system had neutralized the threat without disturbing the dinner service. The assassin observed this interaction, noting the connection between Lady Grey and her butler. He had studied the manor's routines for months during his time as a groundskeeper, mapping the flow of situations, the lines of sight between staff members, and the hierarchy of situation leadership. He knew that within 2 minutes, Basil would move to the east doorway, creating a brief blind spot in his line of sight to Lady Grey. As the evening progressed into its 3rd hour, the chef prepared her signature dessert, a delicate confection of dark chocolate and rare spices that Lady Grey particularly enjoyed. Basil personally inspected each ingredient before it left the kitchen, a precaution he had always taken. The guests had moved to the music room for the final course, where a string quartet played softly in the corner. Lady Grey was deep in conversation with the German ambassador, her back to the main entrance. The assassin noted how the security personnel had positioned themselves with overlapping lines of sight, creating a nearly impenetrable visual network around Lady Grey. Nearly, but not quite. Basil stood at his customary position, cataloging each staff member's movements out of habit. Christopher approached Lady Grey with her cognac, as he had done hundreds of evenings before. Everything appeared normal. The way he held the tray, his posture, the respectful distance he maintained. Yet something caught Basil's attention, a detail so small that later he would struggle to articulate it. Perhaps it was the way Christopher's eyes lingered on Lady Grey's neck for a fraction too long, or how his right hand remained slightly curled, even as he offered the tray with his left. The real Christopher was left-handed and always carried serving trays in his right hand. This footman held the tray in his left, leaving his right hand free. As Lady Grey reached for her glass, Basil saw the glint of metal between the impostor's fingers, a thin syringe, expertly concealed. "My lady," Basil called out, breaking decades of protocol by raising his voice in the dining room. This vocal alarm created an immediate line of sight broadcast, attracting the attention of every NPC who could see him. The security team's heads snapped toward Basil, then followed his line of sight to Christopher. This LOS broadcast cascaded through the room as each security member who saw the initial reaction became a broadcaster themselves. In an instant, the dead body found situation was superseded by the higher priority arrest situation, with the assassin instantly becoming the new target, and Anders automatically assuming leadership based on his security clearance. The false Christopher moved with extraordinary speed, dropping the pretense of servitude as he lunged toward Lady Grey. The syringe, filled with a colorless liquid, aimed for her exposed neck. Lady Grey, revealing reflexes that belied her 60 years, swiftly stepped aside. The assassin's momentum carried him forward as security personnel tackled him to the marble floor, drawn by both radio broadcasts through their earpieces and the visual LOS broadcast that had rippled across the room. Chaos erupted in the music room. Diplomats scrambled for cover as security guards formed a protective circle around Lady Grey. The quartet stopped mid-note, the silence more jarring than the preceding commotion. Basil locked eyes with the assassin as security restrained him. The man's face, so similar to Christopher's that it had fooled everyone for hours, twisted into a cold smile. Despite being pinned to the ground, he exuded a disturbing confidence. "You're too late," the assassin whispered, just loud enough for Basil to hear as they dragged him away. The syringe was never the real plan.
This video breaks down 2 AI technologies from Hitman that you can implement in your own games. Every event in Hitman creates a situation with a target, participants, a leader, and a priority level. In our example, when Basil found Thomas's body, this created a dead body found situation, with the body as the target and Basil as both participant and leader. Later, when the assassin was discovered, this triggered a higher priority arrest situation that took precedence. Unlike games where all NPCs instantly become aware of threats, Hitman uses 2 broadcast methods: radius broadcast and line of sight. The radii of both start small and grow over time, giving the player a chance to contain the situation before it spreads too far. With these straightforward techniques, you can transform your game's AI from predictable to dynamic and emergent, all without a AAA budget or team size. Share your thoughts about this in the comments. See you in the next one.